Well, good morning. I hope you're having an amazing week. It's starting to round up, and looks like we're going to be at the weekend in a few hours here. So, time for me to do some racing, and probably time for you guys to do some celebrating. But today, I wanted to really just talk to you about how to use your own personal guidance system to live a more authentic life, to get more out of what you want out of life. And it's really cool because we were all born with this, and it's actually our sixth sense, and it's so easy to tap into when we're already doing it, but for some reason we decide to ignore it quite often, and I'll get into that in a minute. So the personal guidance system that you have is your sixth sense. Now your sixth sense is really just your emotion and how you're feeling. So you know your five senses, right? You know how to smell, you know how to taste, you know how to feel, you know how to touch and see, and you hear, right? So those are common five senses that we talk about and we utilize to get through our daily life. However, our sixth sense is really our emotion, the feeling that we have inside of us, our intuition. And we are in a culture that decides to say, hey, that intuition, because you can't touch it and see it and hear it, it's not real. But there's things that you can see that you can't hear, and those are every bit real, right? So you don't need to be able to confirm them with five of your five senses to make sure that they're real. You just need one sense. You see something, you know it, you know what it is. You don't need proof. You didn't hear an airplane that was flying miles above, but you could see it in the sky, and you know that it's real. Well, your emotion is actually the same exact way. And now, what the emotion does, it's very much like any one of the other senses, probably most like the touch sense. So, to use an example of how you can use this and this works, just imagine we'll use touch and feeling as our example. So, imagine that there was a nuclear disaster, right? And what happens is when there's a nuclear disaster, there's radiation, right, from that disaster. That's just heat coming off of it, radiating, just like the sun radiates, just like any of sound radiates. Those vibrations of sound or of things that you see or things that you feel like temperature are just radiation of an emanating power. So if there was a nuclear disaster somewhere, if you started walking towards that nuclear disaster, what would happen? It would get hotter. You would be infected with the radiation, that heat, and that would, really mess things up for you. It would mess up your cellular structure. It would first burn you. It would certainly mess up your thinking process. It would cause cancers. You would end up dying. Now, you might walk a certain distance close to it and be able to tolerate a certain amount of that radiation. And the more of that radiation that you choose to tolerate, the more damage is actually done to you physically, because you're surrounded by this radiation, this exponential heat. You stand in front of near a nuclear holocaust, you're gonna have negative effects. The shorter period of time you're there, the lesser the effects. Now, when you come out of that area, you're gonna have a very similar feeling when you're leaving. If you're in the middle of the nuclear holocaust and you're running away, there's going to be pain throughout the whole process because you're so deep into it. And you know what? It might be so hot, you might not even know which direction is the way out, which way to run. Well, the same thing happens with our feelings when we're getting emotionally trapped in things, and when we're around people that are toxic, like a radiation. So what ultimately ends up happening is we can tolerate so much, right? We can tolerate people saying some negative things and some certain amount of abuse out of people, and we can just tolerate so much. We're like, okay, well, that's just how they are. But the more time we spend next to them, the more we get infected, just as you would radiation from a nuclear holocaust or a nuclear meltdown. Now, the longer you're there, the less you realize it, because your body comes accustomed to it in the physical sense and also in a vibrational sense, with people or around situations that don't serve you. So really simply put is you got to manage and see, how am I feeling emotionally? And if you're not feeling great and you're not feeling good, then you got to be making some motion. You got to be moving. You got to get out of the situation. all the time we sit there and we try to change the situation, change the individual, change the situation that we're in, the business or whatever it might be. But the reality is, the only thing we have to change is ourselves and getting ourselves out of that situation. So just like in a nuclear holocaust, if you're around this radiation, you don't sit there and try to clean the air around you and try to cool things down around you. You're not sitting here fanning yourself. I mean, you might try to do that, but it's not going to be very effective, right? You're not like trying to like change the air around you. You can't, right? This is all consuming. You don't have enough power in yourself, or maybe you do, but maybe you haven't figured out how to tap it, because we do actually have enough power to change that stuff. We just haven't figured it out yet. But the reality is, we're not going to change these external circumstances, but we can change where we are. We can change where we surround ourselves, who we surround ourselves with, or what we surround ourselves with. We can change how we're thinking about things. So if we step away from that radiation, whether it is a nuclear radiation, or it is somebody's bad attitude, or just a bad situation, or people being negative about something, we just have to move away from it. And the conversation doesn't feel good to us, we have to just move away from it. Too often our emotions take over and we get involved and we get emotionally invested in things that don't even matter to us, things we cannot control, things that are so far removed, that are from so far away. And this happens to all of us. So I'm not saying it's just happening to you if you're watching. It's happening to all of us. We have these situations where we want to take control and we want to improve them and make them better. But the reality is, 99% of the time, the right move is to just remove yourself from this situation and move towards something that feels good. Now, there's a difference, because there is a certain amount of stress and difficulty that will come with adversity and moving towards a goal. So if your stress that you're receiving, or the thing that makes you feel bad, is a result of growing pains, because you have to learn how to do public speaking, for example, which is one of the biggest fears in the world, right? So you have to learn how to do that to do your job better. Yeah, then that's a good, healthy situation. But there's a very big difference. There's the anxiety of stress and distress, right? And then there's also the anxiety of eustress. Distress is really any of that time you feel bad, and that bad things are gonna happen, and you're worried about it, and you're focusing on that. Eustress is a stress that pushes us to be stronger. Eustress is like going to the gym and working out. That's a eustress, because actually it's a stress that actually makes us more, makes us grow, makes us more of who we need to be. So don't confuse those. So if it's something that moves you towards your goal, then yeah, you might have to push through it. You're going to have to learn those pieces. But if it's not something that doesn't serve you, that doesn't help you towards your goal, then it's time to walk away. So use your emotions and how you're feeling, and tap into, is my heart beating faster? Do I feel heat coming from within me? And that's in a negative way. Or do I feel my heart beating faster and I'm excited, like I'm feeling love? This is amazing. I want more of this. And the things that you want more of, move closer towards them. Invest in those. And the things that you want less of, rather than trying to change those circumstances, just like in a nuclear holocaust, you wouldn't sit there and try to change the air to be cooler for you. You would leave the place. If you're in that area where it's affecting you negatively on an emotional scale and making you feel worked up and bad, then it's time to just say goodbye. Just walk away. You also can just say, listen, we need to change the topic of this conversation, which is one easy way. Like, either you guys can keep talking about this negative stuff, or we can talk about something else, because I've got things I want to accomplish. And a lot of times people will catch people and they'll actually switch tunes, and that's it. But if you invest more time than that, a lot of times it's easier just to step away and just say, you know what, every time I go to this person's house, I feel bad about myself when I leave. Or every time I talk to this person on the phone, I feel bad about myself. And that might be a telemarketer that calls you. It might be one of your relatives. And as you remove these individuals from your life, and these situations from your life, you're going to be feeling better on a daily basis, and you're going to be going after what's important to you. Because what's important to you is probably significantly different than what's important to me and everybody else around you, right? So, or a certain portion of people around you. So you want to always be moving towards what really works for you, what makes you feel good, so that you can expand your awareness, expand your happiness, and move forward. But do this by tapping into how you feel, just like you would the heat on your skin. Just like when you look at something that grosses you out, you don't sit there and stare at it. You don't stare at the things that gross you out. If you put the radio station on, it's between channels and it's all, you don't sit there and listen to that and then just like wish the channel would change. You actually have to physically change the channel. You have to take an action and move away from the vibration that's coming out. And everything, light waves, everything we see is a vibration, right? Waves, vibration, sound waves. Your smell is also a vibration, believe it or not. Everything that radiates onto your skin, that heat from the sun that I'm experiencing right now, that's all a vibration. And all the attitude, the emotion leaving somebody's body is a vibration. And that's an energy. So if you're getting hit with an emotion from somebody that's really negative, don't personalize it. It's on them. It's how they're feeling. And just move away from it. It's a really simple thing to do. Just physically get up and leave the room. Like, I'm not having this conversation right now. The state you're in and is affecting me, and it's not going to be a productive conversation. You know when that's going to happen. You know when a fight's about to brew. And you don't need to win every fight. Just the way you win a fight is by not having one, right? The only way you win an argument is by avoiding arguing, because nobody wins an argument. It's like it just becomes, it escalates. And the feelings get stronger and stronger and stronger. So even when somebody says you're right, the reality is everybody's got their story. Everybody's got their relative belief. And at the end of the day, the best thing to do with arguments is to not have them. We know that. They never make us feel good. We might feel powerful for a moment, but that's the ego. That's not really us acting in love. So really simply put, think about the analogy of if you were moving towards a fire, it's going to burn you, right? And it's going to kill you eventually. And you don't stand really close to the fire and wait for your skin to melt off. You move. You don't sit there and put the fire out unless you're a fireman, right? Instead, you leave the circumstance. If your house is on fire, you get out of your house. Well, if you're in a situation with anybody that's making you feel poor, making you feel bad about yourself, making you feel weaker, making you feel riled up or angry or frustrated or like a victim, take your power and just say, I'm not having this conversation anymore. We can handle it later when emotions have calmed, or maybe we don't even have to handle it. I'm just going to step outside. Do that and step towards the things that you like. Use the same strategy when you experience something that feels really good. So when I was in sales, for example, picking up the phone at first was very painful, but there was that eustress. I had to learn how to do a sale. But then when I got to a certain competency level, it felt so good to get on the phone with somebody that was a decision maker and just have a conversation, see what made them tick, make their business tick, and see how we could potentially work together. That drove me like crazy, made me so excited to actually pick up the phone and call. When I'm out on the track racing, that feels so good. I want to do lap after lap after lap after lap after lap. That feels so good for me. I don't know what feels good for you. You might be a cosmologist and just love cutting hair and having the conversations. That job, I don't think I could do that job. But somebody needs to do it, and that should feel good for you if it feels good for you. And just do more of that. Don't let anybody tell you can't do something that feels good for you. If it feels good for you, move towards it. And if you're doing it out of love, you're not going to be hurting anybody else. You're only going to be creating more value in the world. So this video I know was a lot longer than a lot of my other videos, but I wanted to give you as many analogies as possible. Please feel free to comment, to share, and send me a private message about your own situation, and I'll try to build an analogy for you to help you get out of where you might be stuck. Because when we get deep into this place, when you get so deep, no matter which direction you run, it's painful. And that's what happens like in a fire, right? You don't know where the fire is coming from because it's hot everywhere. Like, you don't know what way the safe exit is. And that's a lot of times when you're in it, it's really hard to see. But from an outside perspective, it's usually a lot easier for people to see because they can see the whole fire burning and see where the source of it is. So if you're trapped inside of this emotional place, you might not know the way out. The important thing is to move, 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 move. And it feels worse, then you might have to step back before you can learn the right avenue. But try to find somebody that you can trust. And if you want, message me and I will try to help you walk out of whatever difficult situation you're in and towards what's important to you. I love to see people succeed in that stuff. I've had to do it myself numerous times, and we've all done it. We just didn't do it necessarily consciously. We've all had successes and wins in our life. Maybe we just didn't know how we got there. So please live your life to the fullest. Go after what feels good for you, and don't let another moment pass where you're in that situation that's uncomfortable. Just feel it here. Like, just breathe and feel how your heart's beating. Do you feel good about right now? And if you don't feel good about right now, then do something that will make you feel good about right now. Real simple way to do that: go for a long walk, go exercise, and walk in nature. Try to get in nature. Try to look at things from really far away and see how little you are and how big this world is, because that shows you how much opportunity there is. And watch how the animals act. It's so amazing how animals behave in nature. If you have a pet, just watch how they are. They're so at peace. They're so in the moment. They don't feel this busyness that we've been taught to feel. So please move towards what feels good for you, because it's going to have such a ripple effect. It's going to have such an amazing ripple effect on those around you and this world as a whole. And your light will shine, and you will be an inspiration for more people. And you probably already are and don't even know it, but you'll start to recognize it more and more. And the world will just become a significantly better place. So that change, stop trying to change everything out here. Just look in here. How am I feeling? If I'm feeling good, how do I feel better? Feel good and feel better. Make that your mission. Feel good and feel. And when you feel good, always be looking to feel better and acting in love. Enjoy your day. I hope this helped for you guys, and feel free to send me any kind of messages or comments. I would love to help you. It really makes me feel good when I can help other people. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.